the Senior Living Show with Joan and Dr. Bader.
Well, here we are today on Senior Living with Joan and Dr. Bader. And today we are going to speak with Mr. D.R. Rawson. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very
DR.
much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. You are a president of the Cadillac Club, is that right?
I am. I'm president/director of the Cadillac Club.
Here in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And so how long has this been going on?
Well, the club itself has been in existence since 1958. Our club in Las Vegas has been in existence since 1998.
I see.
So we've been here a little while.
Uh-huh.
Most people don't even know there's a Cadillac Club. My wife worked for Cadillac for 35 years.
Oh,
And when she'd been there 32 years, we were at a Barrett-Jackson auction. And we've got some great coats, black coats that have all the Cadillac logos embroidered on them.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
They're pretty cool. People notice them everywhere we go.
Uh-huh.
So these guys came up and said, "Hey, do you belong to the Cadillac Club?" I said, "What? The Cadillac Club." I said, "They have a club?" My wife said, "They don't have a club." Now, she worked for Cadillac. She said, "They don't have a club." Guy says, "Yeah, we're members of the LA Club." "Yeah, they do." "Well, how do you join it?" "Well, we don't have any membership things with us, but give us your email address and we'll send you some stuff." And they finally did.
Yeah.
2 months later, they finally did. They were real aggressive. 2 months later, so we got it, and then we joined it. And we said, "We know we're moving to Las Vegas. It's silly to get involved here. We'll just wait till we get Las Vegas." So we actually phoned ahead, talked to their membership guy here, a guy by the name of Hal Sheiks, and we said, "We're coming."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Great, we'd love to have you." Literally, the first year we were here, every time they had a meeting, we were making another trip to California.
Oh, wow.
So it was just kind of funny, but we finally got it all together, and then just by happenstance, I became the president. It wasn't planned. There was a president who had finished, and then another one took over, and she had never been married, and somebody proposed to her and said, "You have to move back east to a little town nobody ever heard of." And she said, I'm in, I'll go." So she did. She left,
She
and
went,
I was
huh?
her vice president, so then I became president. And
Oh.
that's kind of how it happened. But I enjoy that. Being the president of something is something I've done all my life. I've either been president or CEO of lots of companies.
Tell us a little bit about your
Well,
past.
I'm actually a serial entrepreneur. You don't hear that title
Serial
very much.
entrepreneur.
Yeah, you think serial killer, but it's a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
And as a serial entrepreneur, I've either started them from scratch, or I bought them, or I took them over from somebody that didn't know how to run a company. So I started a company from scratch, bought it, or took it over. 26 of them.
Ooh.
In my lifetime. So, and they've all been pretty much in different industries.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, for
Yeah.
example, back in 2003, my wife and I owned a steel company out in Boulder, and we had that for exactly 11 months and sold it. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't get attached to anything.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, if you're going to do a company. And then
Yeah.
I had an insurance company that I started from scratch. That was my biggest success. It grew to be, it grew faster than any insurance company in America. And we grew it in 20 months. We went from zero to north of $1 billion.
Oh my gosh.
And so I left. I sold my stock, took a big contract, and I left. I was done. I'm a startup guy. I love to do startups, and I love that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But because I have such a passion for Cadillacs, I really enjoy what I'm doing.
Now, where did that passion come from?
Well, I didn't have it initially. My wife and I were married 24 years ago, and I was a Mercedes guy. I always drove Mercedes.
Oh.
So
Nothing wrong with that.
just before we got married, she says, "You know, if we get married," this is before we'd really set a date or anything, but if we get married, she says, "You're gonna have to drive a Cadillac." I said, "Really?" I can adjust. I
adjust
can
to
do
that.
that. So the first few Cadillacs we had were used Cadillacs. We loved them, and I kind of got into the brand. And then I really got into the brand, and we started buying all new Cadillacs. We probably had all new Cadillacs for the last 20 years.
Oh,
And every couple of years we changed them out.
uh-huh.
Until I found a 2006 STS that I kept for 8 years. I put
Ooh.
50,000 miles on it in 8 years. When I turned it
Wow.
in, there wasn't a nick, a little grocery cart nick,
Nothing?
nothing. The car was pristine. And I
Oh.
turned it in for my last new Cadillac, and it was a mistake.
Oh,
I should have
you
kept that car.
regret that,
I
huh?
regret it. Yeah, it was a great car. 2006 STS, fully loaded, had everything you can imagine. It was a hot, fast car. You could be going 50 on the freeway and slam the accelerator down
Uh-huh.
and lay rubber.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it had a nice engine in that thing. And it got about 16 miles to the gallon, which for a Cadillac's pretty good.
uh-huh.
Some of them get a lot more today, particularly my 1998 Eldorado that I have gets 17 and a half, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just developed this passion for Cadillac, and I think most people that come to the club,
Mm-hmm.
they have a passion for older Cadillacs or their new Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
They love them. They love the design. They love to be in them. They love the feel of them. They love everything. If you look around Las Vegas,
They're
this
beautiful
is a
now.
Cadillac town.
Yeah, there's a
It
lot.
really is. I'll tell you a funny story. In the community that my wife and I lived in for over 20 years in California,
Uh-huh.
we were the only people in our little tract area that had 2 Cadillacs. The only people. About 5 years before we moved, a guy bought 1 Cadillac. I said, hey, this is good. This is good. Things are changing. 2 months before we moved, he bought another Cadillac. So now there were 2 of us that had 2 Cadillacs.
Oh,
So I said to my wife, we had 2
Competition.
Cadillacs when we came up here. I said, do you think that'll happen where we're moving? I mean, will people have a lot of Cadillacs? She says, I don't know. It'll probably be the same as it is in California. So we were coming into our new home, and we came in late at night, and the neighbors to the left of us had their garage door open. What do you think was inside? 2 Cadillacs.
2 Cadillacs?
2 Cadillacs.
2.
So, okay, well, that myth got blown away. And then, of course, when you drive anything, you drive a Chevrolet Impala, and suddenly you notice every Chevrolet Impala on the planet.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, in this particular case, we just started noticing Cadillacs, and then I started actually counting Cadillacs. And just in our little area, we drive an Escalade. There's at least 6 of them in our little
Oh, my
area.
gosh.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 Cadillac dealers here. So we're affiliated with Finley Cadillac in Henderson.
Finley, yes.
Finley has been
Familiar
the
with
club
them.
sponsor for the last 14 years. And
Oh.
they started with just, here's a few bucks, help us out. And today they literally spend thousands of dollars with us because we do some really great shows that promote the brand and promote the hobby at the same time.
Oh.
I know it sounds kind of funny to collect cars and call that a hobby.
Oh,
You think
no,
of
there's-
stamps like a hobby.
There's a
but
lot of people that
yeah,
collect cars. Yeah.
yeah, there are. One of our members, one of the most interesting of our members, he started collecting cars years and years ago, and his name is Phil Maloof. And anybody in this town pretty much knows Phil Maloof. He once owned the Palms.
Oh,
He
yeah.
owned the Sacramento Kings. He was one of the first Coors beer distributors, so that's where they made their money.
Uh-huh.
So I had the good pleasure of meeting him when he was 89. He's 92 now.
Ah.
When he was 89, I said, so how did you amass and keep all these cars? He said, well, I'll tell you one thing, I never got married. Nobody could take my collection. Okay, well, thanks for straightening that out. Anyway, this man has 180 cars plus tractors in his collection. He also collects pipe
Tractors?
organs. Yeah, tractors. Like
Tractors.
the little green tractor, kind of thing, only not those. He collects an off-brand that was made in Kansas, something, I don't know. Anyway, it's something he relates to in some way. So when he
Okay.
was 16 years old, his dad brought home a brand new 1941 Cadillac. and said, "Come on, Phil, you're 16. I'm going to teach you how to drive in my brand new Cadillac." That's how he learned to drive.
Really?
So he's got 180 cars. Of the 180, 90 of them are Cadillacs. Of the 90, 34 of them are 1941s.
Oh.
Really.
Oh.
And none of them have been restored. All of them are very low mileage. And he's got, some of them, he's got 2 or 3 of the same car, same interior, same exterior, everything. He just loves 1941 cars. But he's got a collection that's incredible. He's a lifetime member of our club.
Uh-huh.
We have another member, Colin Christie, who has a 17, he has a 27, a 38, he's got an 81, a 97, I don't know. He's got a lot of cars. What was funny in
interesting.
2017, we did a promo piece, and we had the new XT5 as it had come out then. We had that parked like this, and we parked the 1917 Cadillac like that. So they were kind of like nose to nose.
Wow.
And then we did a
What a
comparison
contrast, huh?
of the two cars. Well, Cadillac has had a V8 engine since you ready?
Ready?
1915.
A V8 engine.
A V8 engine. In 1912, we were the first car ever to have a starter. So you just start the
So
car.
you didn't have to.
You didn't have to
crank
crank
it.
the car.
Uh-huh.
The guy who started Cadillac, he lost a friend because they were cranking their car,
Oh.
and the crank flew up and hit him in the face and killed him. So he told his engineers, this is not something we want as a company. The world needs a self-starter. So one of their engineers created a self-starter, and they sold it all over the world.
Is
But
that right?
it's, yeah,
It
so
started with
in fact, our
Cadillac.
national magazine for the club is called the Self-Starter, because it was
clever.
such a huge change in automobiles.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
ultimately somebody would have figured that out, but for Leland who was the founder, to push that and say, we will have that, that was a lot. So Cadillac was the first to have the V8,
V8. Yeah.
and the next one was Ford in the 30s. By the 30s, Cadillac had already developed a V8, a V12, and we introduced the V16 in the 30s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, V16. V16s are some of the most prized collected Cadillacs. If you look at these old Cadillacs, they're just tons of chrome. I mean, the whole front of them is chrome.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing about engines back then, because of timing and so forth, a little 4-cylinder Ford, when you see the Model T and they're doing this,
Yeah,
right? And everybody's
yeah.
sitting in there and their heads are bobbling and you wonder if they're going to stay on.
Uh-huh.
And then you go to a V8 and you hear the engine, but you don't see much of a vibration at all.
Uh-huh.
When you go to a V12, it eliminates even more vibration. By the time you go to V16, it is vibration free.
Smooth. Huh?
Smooth. So there was an actor who was one of the first cowboys in Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
His name was Tom Mix. So Tom Mix has a history with something else that I do, but Tom Mix owned a V16 Cadillac coupe with a rumble seat. And and Phil Maloof has that very car in his collection.
He does.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that car. It's something. Pictures of it are on our website, which is LasVegasCLC.com.
Uh-huh.
So you can go to the gallery, which is where all the pictures are, and look for the Phil Maloof. It says members cars. Look for Phil Maloof, and you'll see a picture of it in there. It's really magnificent car. His cars are magnificent anyway. But it was nice to do that comparison between the two cars, bring it back to that.
Yeah.
And so we wrote that up and we sent it to the Review Journal, which never published it, but that's beside the point. What we did find in those two cars, 1917 had a V8 engine,
Uh-huh.
the XT5, no V8 engine, had a V6.
Oh.
The 1917 had a tilt wheel, steering wheel.
Did it really?
Yeah, so did the XT5. That was the only similarity between those two cars.
Oh, well, they had four wheels, right?
Okay, now you're being real technical. They also had a left and right side, a front and back. They had those
Windshield?
things, and they had a ceiling. Yeah, they had a roof. Well, actually, the 1917 it was a convertible, so it was different. But yeah, it
Wow,
was
that car was way ahead of its time.
way ahead
wasn't
of
it?
its time, and Cadillac was. And here's something about Cadillac that most people don't know. It's called the standard of the world. You ever heard Cadillac referred to as the standard of the world?
I hadn't heard that.
You hadn't heard that. Well, that was an early designation, and early on, if you had a Model T and it broke down, and you had another Model T that was already broken down and you wanted to change the parts out, you couldn't change it.
Oh,
Everyone was different because
Oh.
when it came out of the plant, the tolerances would be different, and they just didn't work. Okay,
wouldn't-
some parts
that
would work,
wouldn't
but
be
not
good.
all of them. So
Yeah.
the dealer in England, he said it's the most fantastic car ever, and of course at the time, this was back in the this was probably around 1910 or so. At the time, British cars and German cars were considered fabulous. You know, German engineers were
Yeah.
so good, and English engineers, they thought they were better than German engineers, and certainly way better than those people in America. So what happened was he said, no, we're much better. This is a better car. So they said, well, prove it. So they took 5 brand new Cadillacs and completely disassembled them in piles. Then they would take parts from any pile to assemble another car. They were all different colors.
Well, that
So
was-
you'd have different color fenders and the motor, different parts and so forth. And everything reassembled and ran the
Is
first time.
that's incredible.
It was incredible because Leland had a vision. He was a tool and die maker. So he built something that my father was a tool and die maker, as was my grandfather. And something you use is called a go, no-go gauge. So when you make the part, you put it in there, and if it fits, it means it's in tolerance. If it doesn't fit, it's not.
Yeah.
It's that simple. He would throw parts just into a scrap pile, remelt them, and start over again.
Oh,
And nobody else was willing to do that because that was expensive.
oh, I'm sure.
The Cadillac was a luxury car.
Yeah,
So they
do
did that.
that.
In fact, that race going back to England, they not only did that with the cars, then they said, well, they wouldn't hold up in a race. So they put them in a 200-mile race against English and German cars and French cars. It was the only one to last. Made it all the way through the race. Well, that was a fluke. That wouldn't happen again.
Wow.
So they took one car, put it in a garage, locked it, wouldn't let anybody around it, and then they had a 500-mile race. Again, it was the only one to finish.
No kidding.
That's when it became the
Huh.
standard of the world.
I see.
Isn't that interesting?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cadillac's had a great history, and it's had a history of innovation all along. In 1949, they came out with the first overhead valve engine in the Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and at the same time, it had all power on the inside. It had power windows and it had power seats.
Nice.
We hadn't invented power steering then, but it had all of those things, and people were just amazed. You could just push a button and a window would go right up. I mean, how cool is that,
1949.
right?
huh?
So much better than this. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you one
yeah.
thing I've learned about being so passionate about Cadillacs and seeing so many classics is I have a friend of mine, Ed Shalakian, who has a company called All Cads of the 40s and 50s. And he only has parts for 40s and 50s Cadillacs. In fact, if you were to drive up with his place and take your pickup and you pulled out of the back of a frame for a 1956 Cadillac and said, hey Ed, fill it up. He could put fenders, engines, motors, he could put everything on it and come back. It would be very expensive, but you'd have a car.
Is that right?
Nobody else
That's
can do that.
Crazy.
So he's probably one of the most interesting stories ever, how
Oh.
his business got started. But
I bet.
my wife happens to work for him. It was a
she-
great transition going from a Cadillac dealer to him because she's still in the car business and still in the Cadillac business, and she deals with all these old cars.
Oh.
So Ed has afforded us
Perfect.
the opportunity to drive a lot of old cars. And I'll tell you something. I look at you, you know, you're not exactly built like this, right?
Right.
You would have had to drive a car, and I'm telling you, to get one of those cars around the corner, my wife said, "Oh my gosh,
The steering
am I
wheels
going to make it around the corner?"
were
It was
huge.
huge. The steering wheels were big. They had to be big because the turning radius on those cars was so big.
Oh.
And then on top of that, you wanted to stop the car, you had to stand on the damn brake to get it to stop. So there were all these things, and I think back, you know, these women had kids in the back seat going,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're trying to drive around a corner, and back then smoking was prevalent. I can see them smoking
Oh,
and driving
yeah.
and trying to do, are you kidding me?
Then there was no such thing as a seat belt or.
No,
a car
no such thing as
seat or
seatbelts. Seatbelts
anything.
didn't come in until 1968. And so as a result, I have such an appreciation for women who, they're now passing on, you know, the 89, 90-year-old.
Yeah.
My neighbor, I pulled into my garage with a 50 Cadillac, and my neighbor went, "I remember those. I had one of those." I said, "Okay, great, Frank.
Oh,
Glad to
that's
know that."
Cool. That is really
It's like
something.
a time capsule for him, you know, it was great.
So, DR, what type of requirements does it take to belong to the Cadillac Club?
Oh,
Do you have to own a
no,
garage
very
full
simple.
of
Let me
Cadillacs?
tell you a great story. We require a passion for Cadillac. That's it. You don't even have to have a Cadillac.
Oh, you don't even have to have one.
No. Mm-mm. And you just want to hang out with a bunch of crazy people that all love Cadillacs.
Uh-huh.
We're the right spot, I can tell you. And we're such an interesting and eclectic group of people.
Yeah.
At this age, you know, this title of this program is Senior Living. When we get to be seniors, all of us have interesting backstories. We all came
Oh,
from somewhere. We
yeah.
did so many great things,
Yeah.
and some of us are still doing great things. Anyway, we needed in the club, we needed a really good treasurer. We'd had people who tried to count pennies and do all. We needed a good one. And so one of our members, Hal Sheiks, had a neighbor who was a CPA. Her name is Susan Story. So he said, "Look, I know you don't have a Cadillac, but could you come hang out with a bunch of crazy people that love Cadillacs and be our treasurer?" Well, yeah, I could do it. She's a single woman. Yeah, I could do that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So she did it. And she started in
Great.
2013. And she has no Cadillac. Okay?
Oh.
So about 6 months ago, we have this thing when we hold a meeting. I ask everybody to introduce themselves and tell us what Cadillac you have, or Cadillacs. So it finally gets to her, and she says, "I'm Susan Story, I'm treasurer of the club, and I have a 1957 Cadillac Eldorado."
Really?
Everybody is stunned. First of all, to buy one of those in good driving order is north of $150,000.
Ooh.
So we're going, Sue bought a $150,000 car. She went from nothing to 150. I mean, there was a lot of stops in between, right?
How did that happen?
And then she said, and it's 1/24 scale.
Oh!
So my point being, you don't necessarily have to have a full-size
I
Cadillac.
see.
You can have little ones.
Right, sure.
We have a guy in our club
Sure.
called, whose name is Larry Rafferty. Larry Rafferty is an interesting guy. He designed a lot of the things that you see on Las Vegas Boulevard, like New York, and those kinds of hotels. He designed those
Oh
things.
my gosh.
He's a pretty interesting guy. So Larry's got a 1960 Cadillac flat top. It's a 4-door, and it has a flat top on it, and the back window curves around, and there's no distortion on the curve. And the idea was to eliminate the blind spot.
Oh, clever. Yeah.
Right. So they made it in Oldsmobile, Chevrolet, and Cadillac, I think. But they only did it for a few years, and Larry's got one of those rare cars. And but Larry, here's a great story. Larry's in his mid-60s, and I went over to look at his toy car collection. So I said to Larry, I said, "So when did you get into toy cars?" He said, "You want to know the whole story?" I said, "Well, yeah." He says, "I was 5 years old, and somebody gave me a Cadillac toy car. And I love Cadillacs from that moment on."
Oh.
And so
that's cute.
he's got a collection of toy cars, not just Cadillacs, but mostly Cadillacs, that are, there's one that's this size, it's an eraser,
Oh my gosh.
okay? He's got them up to models this size. Some of these things, he's got a tin car that is worth a lot of money. It kind of looks like a Cadillac, but he's got a tin car that's a Cadillac,
Uh-huh.
and it was made during World War II, and you know, metals were short supply, and so he's got one of those
Yeah,
cars.
yeah.
But he's got cars in his collection that are worth thousands of dollars, just little tiny cars.
Isn't that
And but it's a great collection. Again, LasVegasCLC.com. Go to
Uh-huh.
our gallery,
Yeah.
members cars, Larry Rafferty. It's right there. You can see these cars. They're just amazing, amazing
That's
cars.
really, really interesting. So I want to join the Cadillac Club. So what do I do? Do I go online or?
It's real simple. There's a number of ways you can do this. You can go online to LasVegasCLC.com,
Mhm.
look for membership, and the forms are right there.
Oh,
It's $65.
Uh-huh.
It gives you a national and a local membership. Our membership locally is $25,
uh-huh.
but we give it back to you.
Oh, really?
Every March, we have our picnic, annual picnic. We have it out at Spring Valley Ranch, and we have Famous Dave's Barbecue.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh,
Did you ever eat
great.
Famous Dave's?
Yeah.
Okay, did you
Oh,
ever get
yeah.
out of there for less than $25?
Well, I
No.
don't think so.
Okay, so
No.
a membership is a member plus one. So it's me and my wife, or my wife and me, whoever you want to consider the plus one to be. So anyway,
Great.
you can join that, and
Uh-huh.
you get that 25 back because there's no charge for that picnic, and it's pretty much all you can eat.
Well, that's
We're seniors, we don't eat that much.
pretty
anymore.
fair.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair deal. So we do that. We have a lot of events every year. In April, the last Sunday in April, we always have Cadillac through the years. And for the last few years, it's been held at Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Uh-huh.
So if you've been to
Yeah,
Town Square, you know,
yeah.
it's really it's a posh area.
Yeah,
It's very nice. They
great
have
place.
streets between the shops.
Yeah.
So we're parking on the streets. So you walk through the streets and you see Cadillacs
see.
through the years. In our club, we have someone that Colin Christie that I told you about also owns a 1903. That was the first year Cadillacs were made.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's-
at that Town
quite a while.
Square meeting, you can join for free.
Oh,
That's local and national, free. One day, one time, that's it.
really?
Yep.
Wow.
Then we have another show, which is September 8th this year at Village Square. And on that one, we invite every Cadillac, Pahrump, Las Vegas, Henderson, Mesquite, I don't care where you are.
boy.
Every Cadillac. If you've got a Cadillac badge on your car or vehicle, come on out and show us. Be proud.
That's
Bring it out and show us. Tell us your Cadillac story.
That's
Last year,
amazing.
the story that topped them all was a guy, he says, my dad gave me this car when I was 16.
Gee
He's 42.
Oh.
I
That's-
said, what have you done to it? He said, I put airbags on it.
Oh,
That's it. So the car could go up and down. But
that's something.
that's it. It's the same car that he had when he was 16. And it was used then.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Oh gosh.
it's crazy. These
It is.
stories that people have,
Everyone is
how
so
they got
loyal.
their car. You know, some of
Yeah.
these people, when they get these cars, we have a 1957, a guy by the name of Winston is his first name, owns a 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Baritz convertible.
Oh wow.
It's a very expensive car now, particularly since he's restored it. Took him 5 years to restore it.
Did it really?
Yeah. John Saxa is the general manager of Finley Cadillac. And I told you earlier, John and his partner Scott have a collection.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cars that they acquired just before last year's Cadillacs Under the Stars in September, they acquired a 1966 Cadillac Coupe de Ville convertible. That
Ooh.
color red,
Ooh.
white interior, white top, wire wheels,
Nice.
And it is so much like the original that even the labels that they put on your radiator and the chalk marks on your hood are there.
Is that
It
right?
took the guy 7 years to restore it.
Oh my goodness.
He dies, wills it to his nephew, and his nephew goes, "Why would I want a Cadillac?" and sells it. And John and Scott found it and they bought it. And it's a great car. It is an amazing car.
Oh,
We have another guy
can't
bought
imagine.
a new CTS. His name is Tom. He bought a new CTS, and it's red, and he wanted a white top on his. Couldn't get a white top anywhere. So he drove to Arizona, and they put a white top on it for him. So he's got the only CTS with a white top. When he comes to the shows, you can find him easily because he's got a red outfit on with white shoes and a white hat.
Oh, perfect.
It is so
What a
funny.
match.
He loves that car, and he should love that car. And
Sure.
inside, it's red and white. It's
Yeah.
just fun. Another guy's Anthony's got a car named Goldie, which is I think it's a 2003 CTS, and he's in the process of taking all the chrome and converting it to 18 karat gold. So,
No way.
yeah, it is just beautiful. He's done a lot with the engine and stuff, put lights in there and stuff. But what's most impressive about it is he has curtains on the windows, and on one of the windows it says adults only.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
So all these people find these interesting things they can do with Cadillacs. You should come out and see the hearses. People take these hearses and they make station wagons out of them. They have hearses. We have one guy that comes to the shows all the time. I give a plug for Third Thursday, which is tonight at Village Square. Every third Thursday they have a car show. And it's the same location we use in September for our big car show. But he comes out to that. He lives in Pahrump, drives his hearse over here with his son, and pulls the casket out and sets it all up, and it's all eerie and
Got the
creepy.
casket and everything.
Yeah, oh, he's got both, and the casket's open. You can see it's crazy good fun.
It sounds
And,
like a lot of
yeah,
fun.
people do a lot of things. There's a CTS out there last year. You know, you can buy what's called a CTS V. It's a very, very fast car. You can buy them today. You can buy ATS-V, CTS-V. You can buy the XTS-V. And these cars will go 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. Just for understanding that, most cars do
That's
a
fast.
10 or 12 second 0 to 60.
Yeah.
So that's very, very fast. And you have to get into the supercars like the Maseratis or the Ferraris or the Lamborghinis in order to do those kinds of numbers. So they do it with a regular street car, but they've made it look really, really cool. So there was a guy, he's a vet like myself, and he, when he got out of the service, he had a bit of cash, so he bought a used CTS that was 2 or 3 years old. And it was a CTS V, and it comes with like 465 horsepower.
Gee.
He bumped it up to 1,000 horsepower to the rear
Oh
wheels.
my goodness.
1,000 horsepower. I said, man,
Where are
how
you gonna
fast
drive
can you
that?"
go between stoplights? I mean, it's just 1,000 horsepower. He says, yeah, isn't it cool? I said, yeah, it's cool, but you know, it cost him. I'll just tell you that it cost him high 5 digits
Oh
to get that thing modified. But it's amazing. He starts that up and the whole world rumbles. It's just crazy
that
good.
is amazing.
So
Amazing stories.
Cadillacs are great. I mean, people associate these things with hot rods like old Fords and that, but Cadillacs, it's a classy ride. You know, I'll tell you something that I've shared with so many people. 25 years from now, nobody's going to open up a garage at grandma's house and go, oh, look, it's a Honda. Nobody's ever going to do that. But they'll open up the garage and they'll go, a Cadillac, really? And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
We had one at our April show, had been stored for 25 years. Pulled it out. They did some things to the engine to just kind of get it tuned up and get it right. ran like a top. Everything is perfect.
That's
25 years. That's a time capsule on wheels.
right.
Ed
yeah,
Shalakian that I
yeah.
told you about with the 40s and 50s all Cads, he's got a 1950 Cadillac that everything is original. Tires on the ground, tires in the trunk, everything in the engine. The
Tires?
only thing that's ever been changed is the battery. And it's got 16,000 original miles.
Oh,
Original
that
miles.
is crazy.
Cars for sale. But I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy with some of these cars. My car, I just bought a 2001 SLS, had 38,000 miles on it. And nothing rides
is
like a Cadillac.
Ridiculous.
Have you ridden in a Cadillac?
I have.
Nothing
yes.
rides like a Cadillac.
No, they're
You get out on the
wonderful.
highway and it just
yeah.
you know,
You're
loafs
just
along. and
gliding.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. And you can get that with an inexpensive Cadillac with a used. I've got a 1998 that I'm selling, Eldorado, and it does the same thing. Get out on the highway and it just wafts along, 17.5 miles to the gallon. It's gold, looks great. It's a nice car. The interior looks perfect. And so the other thing about Cadillacs is when you find used ones, oftentimes because they're Cadillacs, they're not high mileage. Because people have so much respect for them, they'll drive their Honda or their Ford
They'll keep
and
it in a
keep
special
the Cadillac
place.
in a special place
Yeah.
in the garage.
Uh-huh.
So it's well taken care of. So
That makes sense.
it's a
Yeah.
greght hobby, I'm telling you. And
Yeah, I can
getting back to
tell. You're
membership, that
totally
membership at
committed.
$65 is well worth it.
Yeah.
We're a great group of people that have a lot of fun together. We have a lot of activities through the years, and it's just stupid
Oh.
fun. Just great fun.
Oh, yes. Who is the sponsor for your group?
Finley Cadillac,
Finley
in
Cadillac.
Henderson. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Sachs is the general manager,
Uh-huh.
and Sergio Brooks is their marketing guy, and LJ Harness
Yeah.
is he's their marketing and social media guy.
Uh-huh. You see him
LJ
around
does
quite a bit.
also their social activities. He does Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
He does. We do a lot of charities. At Christmas time, everything they're involved with that we're relative to a charity, we're involved with.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
LJ and I spent a lot of time together doing all these things. And he puts on a show, Toys for Tots. It's sold out every year.
Yes.
And it's a great show.
I've seen it. It
So
is
many
wonderful.
entertainers from Las
Yeah.
Vegas Boulevard come down there. But
He's quite the percussionist himself.
he is, yeah. He's a percussionist. He's a drummer by trade. And he
Yeah.
does the American Trilogy, which is Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, and Neil Diamond. They were just out at South Point, and he does the percussion for them. He says, at this age, because he's in his mid-60s now, he says, I like to do the percussion because I don't have to rehearse. Okay, well, I get it. I can see that.
Wow.
It's a restriction on his time. He's trying to sell Cadillacs, too.
Sure.
But John Saxa is a great guy. John has been very supportive of us and the whole Finley organization relative to charity. You know, the other thing about this town is this is a great charitable town.
It sure
People
is.
would never suspect that. People that come to this town, they see the Las Vegas Strip, they see the entertainment, and that's all they think of.
Yeah.
We know that when we get into Anthem, Highlands, or the Southern Highlands, or over in our area, we live near the Green Valley Ranch area. It's like another community in some other state. You wouldn't
It
even
is.
associate it
No.
with the Strip.
No.
I remember
Right.
in 2003, I asked someone, I said, so when was the last time you were at the Strip? They said, turned to their husband and they said, what was it, about 15 years ago? Yeah, about 15 years. I said, really? It's been 15 years since you've been in, yeah. Why would we go there? Oh, I don't know, maybe the entertainment, I don't know, something. But people here just look at that like it's another state.
Yeah.
It's just someplace
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all around it, the entertainers that entertain there, all the people in the community, this is a giving community. And they just give so many charities. And the Finley organization, which is not just Cadillacs, they give a lot of money back to this community. A lot
That
of
is so
money.
wonderful.
It is. And John Sachs has been the head of Finley Cadillac for, I think, since Finley's had the franchise. And he's got a vision of what it can do and what it can be. But the other thing I'll tell you about that, and this is from a personal perspective. Remember, I have Cadillacs myself. We've always had them serviced at Finley, and Michael G's our service advisor. And I'm telling you, it is top notch. Way better, don't tell my wife this, way better than her organization ever gave. This is really good service.
Oh,
They just take care of you.
that is
It's really
great.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Good place.
Wonderful. Good place to buy a new Cadillac.
It is. And we're grateful to have them as a sponsor. So,
Yes.
so grateful.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this information.
Well, it's my pleasure. Not many
Yeah.
people ask me all the questions that you ask about Cadillac, and I don't often get to just throw it all out there. So thank you
Very
very much for the
interesting.
opportunity.
Thank you.
You're
DR.
welcome.
We'll be right back.
Check us out on Facebook and YouTube.